George.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here with me today on this first edition of this podcast. This is a bit experimental, so some things might go wrong, but
Awesome.
let's see how it goes.
It means that it's real.
So, for those people that don't know you, who you are, what you do, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a regular human, father, husband, brother, son. I love sports. I love running. What I do for life is business-wise is I work with CEOs, general managers, business owners, and I help them to achieve higher performance, better results, and in the same way to balance that with fulfillment in their personal lives, in their relationships, in their hobbies, in their body, with the energy and all that. So basically I would say that I have the privilege of helping people to be happier, to have a happy life.
Okay. For people that don't know you again, do you position yourself as a coach or?
Yeah, we can say that. Well, coach, a trainer, a speaker, an author. Yeah,
Okay.
but I would say as a coach, main thing as a coach.
Okay.
Apart from that, I also do some inspirational speaking. I wrote a book. I have 2 more books planned for this year and next year. I do trainings. I train people to become coaches. Actually, you were at one of our trainings. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. Why is coaching important these days?
You have a lot of noise, right? And when I say noise, it's not noise from cars or from people screaming or whatever. It's internal noise. Today we live in a world that you have a lot of opportunities. We never had technology so at our side, meaning today with a smartphone you can easily get any information, any strategy, any question, any answer actually that you need to have for your questions. But at the same time, you never had so many external demands for attention, focus, results and all that. So meaning that in one hand you have everything that can give you what you need, but on the other hand you have a lot of things demanding you focus, attention, action, results and all that. So a coach is someone that works with you in that noise that is created inside because of all the demands, and helps you to see things from a different perspective. This is like, let's put it into sports. A coach is someone, imagine you are a golf player, right? And you have your swing, but you cannot see how you swing. So a coach is someone that is looking from the outside, is looking at your swing, but a coach will not tell you what to do, okay? A coach, what he will do, he will ask you questions. Have you already thought about changing this? Have you already thought about changing 2 millimeters here, or putting your hand like this, putting your hand like that? And has that a coach is not emotionally involved with the situation. He has the ability to ask you quality questions, to ask you sometimes uncomfortable questions, with the goal of leading you to your own solution, meaning guiding you on an internal journey so that you can find your answers and you can find your solutions.
Okay. I think some people, when they think about coaching, they take it to the sports coaching side. And when you think of the sports coach, you think of someone on the side screaming at you, "Go, you can do it." Is that the right analogy for coaching, or what's your analogy for coaching?
Normally, when I teach, when I run the coaching certification, the coaching training, what I tell people is actually the word coach doesn't come from the word coach from sports. It comes from carriage, from the word coach, but from a train or a coach that was pulled by horses. So a coach is really someone that helps you to identify where you are, meaning where is your actual state or point A, and point B, meaning your desired state, where you want to be. And that the coach is someone that will transport you, will support you along the way. Will a coach motivate you? Yes. Will a coach help you to recognize things that you might not be able to recognize by yourself. Yes, but a coach is not a specialist in what you do. For example, if I coach someone on business strategies, as a coach, I don't need to know about business strategies. I need to know about your mind strategies. I need to be able to identify some patterns in you that are blocking you. And I need to be able to ask you, again, powerful and quality questions that will take you through the solution that you need to find, but from inside. So sometimes in sports you have someone that was a specialist, that was a great tennis player or a great football player, like for example Zidane, right? He was that until yesterday Real Madrid's coach, and he was a really good player, right? But again, also in sports you have coaches that they were not that good as players. So again, a coach is someone that will help you to go from a point A to point B. I wouldn't call it in an easier way, but in a more sustainable way, and making sure that you utilize your own resources.
So I like that distinction you make between, I think, a coach and what would be, for me, a mentor, for example. So
Exactly.
for me, a mentor would be someone that has already done some strategy and is walking you through it.
Yeah.
And a coach doesn't have to.
No, not at all.
So how can a person that hasn't walked the walk, let's say, can help another person do that walk?
Right, great question. Because it's all about your internal strategies, meaning, so we don't coach on strategies, we coach on results. So strategies, again, it's easier. If you Google now, how can I make more money? I don't know, but at least 1 million answers you will have from Google. So strategies today is not the issue. So a coach is a specialist on the psychology of results. So a coach knows about emotions, knows about patterns, knows about what can hold you and what can take you to the next level. Because again, what happens with people is that we think that we are the only ones with that specific fear. We are the only ones with that specific blockage on creating a strategy or moving forward. As coaches, we know that it's not like that, because again, we all run patterns. We all run internal patterns of emotions. And that psychology is either propelled or limited by our emotions. So by helping our clients, by helping you, by helping people to realize the way that they are using their psychology, meaning their beliefs, their meanings, their rules that they have for life, the values that they're living, their mission, their why, their vision. Most of people, they don't have this clear. So most of the time, what is blocking them is an internal conflict. It's, for example, they want to have more results in their company, but at the same time, they don't want to work that much time. Meaning, in one side, they have this drive, but on the other side, they have another drive to stay with their family or to stay with their hobbies or whatever, right? So what a coach will help them is for them, again, to identify all those beliefs, values, rules, whatever, and mainly to help them to identify what is the story, either the empowering story that they need to create about whatever they are and wherever they want to go, or the story that they are telling themselves, and by that story they are being limited. Okay?
And I guess accountability is a big part of
Oh
having
yes,
a coach as
absolutely.
well. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Accountability and commitment. You know, a coach will also hold you accountable, and it's normally what I say to my clients. I will not buy your story. Okay, there are things that are facts, but there are options that you can take about those facts. Okay, and you can either tell a story or you can create a story. Right. So in there, it's where accountability comes in, checking in, challenging, helping the client to commit, and making sure that he follows that commitment.
Okay. So my next question is that does everyone need coaching? I mean, who doesn't need coaching?
Well, I think it was the president of Google or Bill Gates, actually. I think it was from Google that said that everybody needs a coach. Again, you look at people and you see some people with a lot of success. Again, and 30, 40 years ago, the position of coach didn't exist. So I wouldn't say that a coach is something that is essential. There are people that, of course, they have their internal psychology, their values, their rules, even if they are not aware, but they are very structured. But I would say a coach is, and some people look at a coach as someone that will help them to solve problems. Coaching is not about helping you to solve problems. Coaching is about taking you to the next level. And again, even if you are a very high successful or fulfillment level in your life, and actually I have the privilege of working with people that if I would have worked with them a couple of years ago, I don't know, when I was a junior, my first question would be, why this guy needs a coach? Because there are people that they have companies, they are millionaires, they have a good life, they travel the world. I have a client right now that is on the other side of the world with his family for a month. So coaching is not really about problems, and it's not only for helping people that have problems. It's about helping you to be more, to achieve more, to become more, to be more fulfilled. So it's about results. So looking at that perspective, I think we all can do more than what we do. Because again, even myself, I am a coach, and I consider myself a very good coach. And I also have a coach. And people say, really? Do you have a coach? Of course, because I also myself, I have my fears, I have my limiting beliefs. And by self-coaching me, I would not be able to
kind of see the blind spots.
Yes, kind of see the blind spot, and I would be, sabotaging myself. So I would say, from my perspective, yes, everybody needs a coach because we can always do more.
Okay. So from your clients and the people you work with, why do you think, what patterns do you see generally? Why do people fail at achieving something they want? Obviously, this is a very general question.
Yes. I would say that there are three things that if you master these three things, you master your life. And I would say that those three are also the ones that limit people. So I would say, and I would call them personal power, right? These three things, your personal power. So the first one is the decisions that you take, And what we need to be aware of is if either you are taking decisions or you are not taking decisions, you are always deciding, because not deciding is a decision, right? So I would say the decisions that you make. You see a lot of people, and I always use this metaphor, you see a lot of people today imagining that your life is an airplane. I see a lot of people, they are not in the captain's seat, they are not even in the co-pilot seat. Some of them, they are in first class, but unfortunately I see a lot of them in the real back of the plane, meaning they are not taking charge of their life. And that is a decision, They choose to blame, they choose to judge instead of holding themselves responsible for whatever happens and changing it. So I would say the decisions, number one. Then number two, meanings. The meanings that you give to a situation, right? So something terrible happens in your life. Your CFO run away with all the money of the company. So, and you have people that their lives end up in there. They try to go after the CFO and kill him. And there are people that they look at it, and of course they are not happy with the situation, but they are able to see, okay, this is not the end. For example, I made this. So if I made it once, I can do it again. And maybe this time I can do it faster. So the power of meaning, whatever meaning you give or you attach to a situation, that situation becomes that meaning. And the third one, I would call it the power of beliefs, right? What you believe in. Again, if something happens to you, is this happening for me or is this happening to me? Is this happening for me to grow, or is this the end? Is this a beginning, or this is the doomsday? So whatever you believe about something will have a tremendous impact in your results. Like, for example, Ronaldo is one of the, if not the best player ever. And they once asked him who he thinks that is the best player ever, and he said, me. And the interview started, really? Do you really think that? And he said, yes, of course. I need to believe that. I have to believe that. I must believe that, because if I don't believe it, I will never be. So power of belief. So I would say these three things. decisions, meanings, beliefs, and if you put all these three, this is your personal power. And there are a lot of people, unfortunately, that they are not using their personal power.
Okay. So when something bad happens, let's call it bad, and you have the decision to choose what meaning you will give to that. What do you think is the trigger for the brain to go in one direction or the other direction?
Great question.
Being one the more positive one, and the other the more negative. Or
Great question.
Is it random? Is it coachable? Is it?
Well, the main thing that we all look for, the worst scenario, is we have a primitive brain, right? We call it the reptile brain that comes from cave age, right? And our brain in that at that time was designed to protect us, to assure that we would survive. So meaning our brain was always looking for the danger, was always looking for the problem, was always looking for what's wrong. So we have a focus that is always looking for a problem. But again, with the evolution, we got the emotions, we developed the right side of the brain, and because if we are rational and if we would only run a program, okay, it would be find, seek, or seek and find, got it, you found it, now create a plan, deal with it, solve, move forward. But then we have emotions again, and we have emotions like fear, emotions like joy, like sadness, like rage, which these four are really the main ones. So then you see something and that really scares. So as you don't have your emotional control or you don't have that muscle, then you get like attached to it or you just freeze. And the main thing apart from that, so, and what I mean with this is your brain's job is not to make you happy. Your brain's job is to protect you. Okay. Your job is to make you happy. And what kind of adds even more to that is that we all have this internal rule, this internal equation that pain equals love. And before explaining why we have that equation, I just wanted to reinforce that the thing that all humans crave more is for love. Either we want more money, or we want a better car, we want a better house, we want whatever, be recognized. Everything that we do, the end is about feeling loved. Because if I have a great car, people will look at me, people will give me recognition, meaning I am loved. If I have money, I have security, meaning people will look at me, I am loved. So we all look for love no matter what we do. And the equation pain equals love started on the first day that, or I would say even in the first second that we were born, because in that first second, we being babies, we passed through some suffering, of course, with the birth, even if it was an easy one, coming from a place where we were all warm inside of our mummies, and right now we are outside in a strange world that creates a change. And adding to that, every time that you are with cold, or you have a tummy ache, you are wanting to have your milk, or you have your diaper dirty, you cry, you express your pain. And by expressing that, what do you get? Everything. Attention, care, love, everything. So in that moment, we all created this rule that, oh, if I have pain, I have love. So meaning when something bad happens, the brain, first thing, he looks at it. He realizes the problem. What can really go wrong? And then we have this other thing, this other rule that equals pain to love. So we attach to it with the illusion of, if I suffer, if I feel this pain, then I will get love. And this is what I call the victim state, and we all have the tendency of going there, to the victimization. And that's why people, they don't take responsibility for their decisions, for their meanings, and for their beliefs.
Okay. So, again, for people that don't know you so well and haven't followed you, because we're also close friends, and
yes,
I know a bit of your story, but I have to ask this question. Well, which challenges did you personally face in your life until now, and how did you overcome them?
Well, I would say, and I normally say this when I talk, when I give talks, that I have a PhD in pain. Right? I was blessed with pain from a very early age. Meaning, I was sexually abused when I was 7. I was bullied from, I don't know, 10 until 15, something like that. I lost a very close friend to suicide when I was on my early 20s, and I blamed myself for it for a long time. I also was born in, let's say, a special family where I saw a lot of things that I shouldn't have seen, meaning domestic violence, physical, verbal, psychological. Also had a mom that loved me dearly but was really obsessed about me. So every time that I wouldn't do what she wanted, she would let me know through beating what I was doing wrong, and also verbally and psychologically. And then, of course, I grew up with this, and but at the same time, you can see this as a negative thing or a positive thing, because what I see now is that allowed me to develop this resistance, this warrior in me, right? This strength. But again, you create on a structure that is not structured. But again, as you see things and you see it from your perspective, you think that it's normal, right? It's normal for parents to act like this. Love means that you don't have respect, that you can say whatever you want, and you grow up like this. And I believe that at that point, I didn't even realize all of the things. Of course, I realized and I remember, sometimes asking why this, why that, but I didn't realize all the consequences. And then on my early 30s, I reached a point in my career that, well, I can say that I was very successful in what I was doing, but at the same time, I was empty inside. People looked at me and they envied me, not in a bad way, but they say, hey man, you have a great life, you do this, you travel, you have money, you have a good car, and I was totally frustrated and disappointed at where I was at that point. And that actually was when I found coaching, and led me to developing my career in this area and leaving behind 13 years in corporate. But adding to all that pain, I think the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge was when 5 years ago already, my daughter was diagnosed with cancer. And it was like a new awakening and a newborn for me, and it was something suddenly, right? One day my daughter, I was coaching from home actually. I was coaching through Skype, coaching online. I heard my daughter crying of pain. I go to the living room, she's crying and saying, my tummy aches. We take her to the hospital. She's diagnosed with a stage 5 kidney cancer, 2 to 4 weeks I live. So you are faced with a situation like this and you realize a lot of things, right? You realize that, well, it's part of life. You realize that it's not always about you, that you need to get out of yourself and focus on someone that needs you at that point. But of course, that was the greatest challenge. And as you know, 15 months after, unfortunately, she left this world and she lives up there now. So I have an angel as a daughter. And I would say that was the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge that I had. So, and looking back, when you realize all the things that I went through on my childhood, on my teenage years, and on my early young adult life, all the challenge that I faced was only the preparation. They allowed me in some way to build muscle, emotional muscle, that allowed me to deal with not physical pain in this, but emotional pain and spiritual pain. Because when you lose someone, you are a father, you know what a child means to us is spiritual pain. It's not emotional, it's not physical, it's spiritual. So that was my biggest challenge.
Okay. Such a powerful story. But I want to go back to, because you said you at that time you already started coaching. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you, what compelled you in coaching? What did you find attractive or engaging?
So I first heard about coaching, I think was late or mid 2006. It was somewhere around 2005, 2006 that I heard about coaching, and it was a point I reached a plateau more or less in 2003. You know, that was when I started to not feel happy with the life that I was having, with the direction that my life was going to, and I started to look for answers. I started to look for answers. I went back again to school, to the university. I did a post degree in sales management. I thought that I would, by having new tools and again going back and learning, I went there, I came back. It wasn't that, and I kept looking. And one day, I heard about Tony, Tony Robbins, about this guy that was motivating people and doing events for thousands of people. And I said, that bullshit, that doesn't exist. But again, as I always say, that there are no coincidences. That week, Portuguese magazine Sábado had an article about coaching, about Tony. On that article, there was a coach there. I Googled him, I found his page, I emailed him, I started talking with him, and I went to coaching. So what really led me into coaching was I was feeling lost in my direction. At that time, I didn't have a purpose. At the time, I was not motivated at all. So I would say, if you can put it in a general way, it was the lack of fulfillment that I was having in my life.
Okay. So you got into coaching because you wanted to solve your own...
Yeah, I wanted to find answers that I didn't even know that I was looking at them. I had questions that I didn't even know that I had them. Through coaching, I got to that. But it was mainly, and again, coming back to what I said, it was not about solving the problem, because inside of me, I had this realization that I can do more. I can be more, and life deserves more from me. So I looked for coaching as a client because I wanted more. It was not okay. I was on a plateau. I had issues, but I didn't want to solve the issues. I wanted more. So the issues was like the consequence of wanting to be more.
Okay. And at what point did you started thinking, whoa, I could do this for others as well. I could be a coach as well.
That was, immediately after session 1, I did a 3 months coaching, very intense. Every week I had a coaching session of like minimum of 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours every week. So it was a very intense process. And I remember that after each session, my mind wouldn't stop with the new tools, and I would go back to the company and wanting to start putting things into place. But then again, you go to the environment, to the old environment, and you get resistance. People say, hey, who are you? What are you wanting to change? Why that? So, but the moment that I realized that I really wanted to become a coach and a speaker and a trainer and all that was when I attended my first event with Tony Robbins, my first personal development event. And it was a 4-day journey that when I went there, I was expecting to reach the moon, and I went to another galaxy. And long story short, I found out why I was feeling so unhappy with what I was doing, because I remembered my childhood dream. And my childhood dream was I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to be a doctor, a surgeon. And I realized, I knew that I was not being a doctor, but I saw an opportunity through coaching and speaking and doing events and all that. I saw, well, I cannot help people, I cannot serve people as a doctor, but I can be a doctor of the soul. Like I can be a doctor of emotions, I can be a doctor of spirit. And I saw myself there, and I remember, it was the end of the event. We were like 3,500 people at that time, and people were leaving the room, and I saw the stage, and I was crying. I had a group of friends, three friends, that we met there, and we still talk. This was 11 years ago. And I remember pointing at stage, and I said, one day, I will be there. This is what I was born to, and one day I will be there. So it was that day, and this was April 2nd, 2007.
Okay. And I know you have over how many hours of coaching?
9,000 plus.
So that's amazing. So I know you're a very good coach. What are you not very good at?
Great question. I normally say that we are not very good in things that we don't want to be very good. Because again, living by what I just said about the decisions and meanings and beliefs, it's all about that. Um, I would say, and sometimes I play with my wife and I tell her, you know, I can be whatever I want in whatever I do. So I think that whatever, and you are making me think, which is great and which I love, I think that not being good at something, that only happens when we don't give the importance to change it. Because again, you are a father. If imagine you are a terrible, I don't know, giving him bath or something, but if you realize, man, it's really important for me to be the number one top in the world bath giver or whatever, you will become. Even if you are, I don't know, if you are still in dealing with things and soap and all that, but you will become because you give an importance to it. Um, so the things that I might not be good at is things that I don't give importance to it. And I would say, for example, details, it's one of the things that I'm not very good at. I'm very big picture oriented, action oriented. So, for example, if you give me a book, 600 pages, only if I love it, like for example, a biography of Steve Jobs or Nelson Mandela or Gandhi, books that I read that are 600 pages or 700 pages long, and I loved it because it's about people that were like mentors, idols, and role models. But if you give me a technical book about coaching, even if I love coaching, I'm more practical. So I immediately will go and say, okay, let me see where I can find this in a 10-page thing. So I would say details.
Okay, okay. So I notice you talk a lot about integrity as one of your core values, I think.
Yeah.
Well, why is it so important, integrity?
Integrity and congruency. I think we live in a world that people need examples. For example, I was in Brazil last week, and Brazil was nearly stopped because the truck drivers started a strike. So there was no fuel at fuel stations, and not only that, there were no transportations. They don't have a railway system, so everything goes by truck. So food, there was no more food in supermarkets. People stopped going to school because there were no more buses. So the country was nearly stopped. There were airports that you would only land if the plane would have enough fuel to departure again to the next destination. And I see people, and again, there might be some Brazilian people hearing me. I don't tell them that they are right in complaining, in blaming the government, the system, and all that. But at the same time that they do that, they are opening hands of what they can do. Because the truth is that everything that you see around you, everything that happened in the world, started with the idea, with the action of one person. So we have that power. And by having someone, so when you talk about the Nelson Mandela, when you talk about the Mother Teresa, when you talk about Steve Jobs, when you talk about people that, Ayrton Senna, for example, that created a legacy, that transformed the world in any way, that left something that people look at and see, they were in integrity with what they believed. You know, Steve Jobs was so focused, so crazy about technology quality that he had this bad temper. But again, he was in integrity with what he wanted. He believed that this can be done, and he would scream at you, he would call you names, he would be really offensive to you because he knew that it would be possible. But again, he was in integrity with his beliefs, his values, and all that. So people need integrity because you can teach me, you can tell me things, but if I don't look at you, and as fathers and mothers, we know that we can tell our kids don't smoke, but if we smoke, what do they see? You know, they see examples. So integrity and also congruency, especially in the market that I'm in, I see a lot of people going on stage, and this is not a critic, this is not a judgment, this is reality. I see people going on stage, teaching you or giving you tools about time management, about finances, about relationships, and you look at their lives and they're not doing it. So they're, again, so if you're talking to a crowd of 1,000 people and you are telling them, hey, if you do this, you get this, but then they look at you and they don't see it, you're not serving them. So you need to live in integrity with your values, and you need to be congruent with what you preach, because that's what people will look at as a role model. And the world needs role models to follow. People needs to be inspired, and we all can do that.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about Brazil. I know you're also doing events in Brazil.
Right.
Are the challenges that you see people facing there, apart from this last strike, are they very different from the ones you see in Europe?
I wouldn't say. I would say no. They are the same because again, all the challenges they are created by the culture of the company, and the culture of the company is created by history, right? And I would say that Brazil, being an ex-colony, an ex-Portuguese colony, herited some of our let's put it, not so good cultural things. Like, for example, Portuguese culture is known like we do things last minute. We are not very punctual, for example. And I normally tell this as a joke. The Brazilians, they became experts in that. They took it to a next level. So I would say they need some more time in history to develop, again, decisions, beliefs, and meanings about situations that are putting the country behind. But again, there are countries that are very results driven, like for example, if you look at the United States, their culture is result, is conquering, is winning. Brazil has more like a Latin culture. It's more like, okay, let's take it with some fun and with some creativity. And it's an amazing country. I love Brazil. I love the Brazilian people. And the main thing that I see that they need to change, again, that there is a big system, corruption at a level that we don't see here, and security at the level that we don't see here. But again, it's the people needs to realize their own personal power, because one thing is what the government can do for you. It's like JFK once said, right? Don't ask your country what your country can do for you. Ask yourself what you can do for your country. And I believe if everybody, instead of complaining about the system, instead of complaining about the government, they would do something about it, they would be able to change. So what is lacking in every challenge right now, either is a country, is a company, is the lack of accountability, the lack of commitment, and the lack of leadership.
Okay. Do you have any tips for someone that wants to start doing business in Brazil, or possibly expand to Brazil? What's your experience of starting to do business there? Is business very different?
It's not different. You have a lot of bureaucracy there that comes with a system. I would say the main essential thing is a good strategy. You need to really know your product. You really need to know what product you want to take there. It has to be important for you. I wouldn't go to Brazil to experiment things. I would go to Brazil studying the market first, knowing how can my product be different. But again, Portugal, we are 11 millions. Brazil, they are 200 plus. So the opportunities, the size of the country is totally different, right? Through social media, it's, again, on my area, I have right now in social media, in Instagram, like 10,000 plus, almost 11,000, which is really good for Portugal in this area. But if you go to Brazil, a guy like me has easily 400, because again, it's the dimension. So you need to be aware of that it's exponential there.
400,000.
400,000, yes, 400,000 followers. So I would say that the main thing is knowing your product, knowing why your product will be different there, having a strategy, not going there only with an idea, having already clear strategy, and having a partner there would also help you, of course. But if you know your product, if you have a vision, if you know the importance why you want to go there, it's not only about the money, it's to create change, to create impact, to create this. And again, this works not only with Brazil, but with every other market.
Okay. So taking on that little bit you were saying now, knowing what makes a difference, what makes change, what facilitates change. I know it's an important question for you as well. How to impact change on others, and how does it work? How do you influence others to change? And can you influence anyone? I mean,
well, that's one of the principles of coaching, or NLP, neuro linguistic programming. And there is like this quote or this rule: you can only influence people when you know what is already influencing them, right? So if I know what influences you, I can influence you through that. So in order to create change, in order to create action, because change is action, right? We need to understand that we all are driven by human needs, and we all are driven by two vectors, right? We all are driven by 6 human needs: the need for certainty, the need for uncertainty, the need for connection, love, the need for significance, and the need for growth and co-contribution. So when we value these needs in different ways, and we see these needs in different ways, so we need to understand when we are trying to influence someone. For example, if you are more driven by certainty, meaning by security, by comfort, and if I'm more driven by uncertainty, which is risk, which is variety, I cannot deal with you with the same way that I would love someone to deal with me. So I have to deal with you with strategies and things that will give you the certainty that you need to change. Whereas if you are driven by an uncertainty, most probably I only need to challenge you, right? So get to know the needs that are driving the people that you want to influence, that you want to change or create change. And I would say that the second thing is the importance. Why would be important for that person to change? And in here, you need to leverage it by two vectors, which is pain and pleasure. We only take action, we only change when we add more pleasure to change than pain to not change, right? And people, for example, people that, again, that are more certainty driven, they add, for them, it's more painful to change than not to change. Whereas, again, people that are more driven by uncertainty, normally that they see change as more pleasurable, meaning not changing is painful for them, right? So you need to understand their needs, and you need to use pain and pleasure to make them change and to take them to where, and it's not about you, right? When you are changing someone, you are not wanting to change you, you are wanting to change them because you see things like, for example, as a coach, you have and we call it the hallucination that by becoming this, you will be more successful, more fulfilled, all those things.
But for example, in a social setting, for example, imagine you're having dinner with some friends, and one of them is smoking, for example, and let's say that smoking is a thing you don't like. Do you feel compelled to say something like
which in fact is
which in fact is what do you feel compelled to say, look, you shouldn't smoke, or why are you smoking, or you just ignore it, or how do you deal with that?
Well,
because I know some people might be listening, and they might have a team member they would like to see
change. Yeah. So what we need to understand is we all run by models of the world, right? And again, it's something that we talk in coaching and in the coaching training is all. And basically, we can reduce the model of the world to 4 things, right? Your values, your beliefs, your rules, and your goals, right? And there are a couple more things, but I would say these 4 are the most important ones. So we all have, even if we have the same goal, we will not have, it's impossible to have the same rule, the same value, and the same belief about it. So we all have different models of the world, meaning that it's like a pair of glasses that I use and I see the world in a different way. So of course, someone that smokes loves smoking, because he attaches a meaning, he attaches a value, a rule, a belief about smoking. for example, I never smoked, so smoking for me doesn't make sense. But again, it's my model of the world, and who am I to judge others? So what you need to believe is when you start judging someone, you cannot change them because you are coming from a place of judgment. You can only help people to change when you are coming from a place of service, a place of love, no judgment. And the only person that can decide if they want to change or not is a person that has whatever she has or he that you might think that you see. But of course, I can challenge, I know tools to challenge people, but I never interact, well, I wouldn't say never because never doesn't exist, but it's very random for me to go and confront people like that. Only if, like for example, I'm in a closed place with kids and I see someone smoking, not respecting, and that for me is something that goes against my model of the world. And then, of course, I might go, amen. Don't you see that there are people that are children in here and all that? But again, it's about realizing that maybe what you think that is wrong in them, for them is right. Yeah. Or maybe it's a blind spot, they are not seeing it. So you cannot approach this person from a right-wrong place, like a place of judgment. You need to create what in coaching means rapport, which is a connection with that person first, and then ask a question or invite them to a change. Even in or especially in coaching, you need to come from a neutral place. So again, for the people that will be listening to this, don't change people if they don't want to be changed. Even if you see, man, if you change, you will get this. It's not your job to change people. Only if they want to change. Especially if you want to change someone that you love. Don't change someone that you love. Love them, and if you love them enough, they will change.
Okay, cool. So switching gears here a little bit, and I wanted to also talk about how you work with companies and teams. Mm-hmm. What's your strategy when you start working with let's say a group? How do you get in there and build a rapport with that group?
Great question. So most of my clients, they come by reference, meaning I am referred to another client by a client that had a great experience with me. So normally when I get into an organization, I have already that authority, let's call it like that. But of course, sometimes the CEO knows me, but the team doesn't know me. So when I do an intervention on teams, and knowing that first, some of the teams that they will look at me and they will judge me, like, who is this guy that comes here now to tell me whatever I want to do? So I go there, the first thing that I tell them is, I'm not here to teach you, I'm here to help you, for you to see what are your strengths and what are your growth areas and your blind spots, so that you can decide if you want to change or not. So it's creating this connection. It's coming from, again, in coaching we have three ways of approaching: the superior, the equal, or the inferior. It's always coming from an inferior way, not going there, I'm the master of the world, I travel the world, I do this. No, it's going there, hey man, I'm here to serve you. It's connect with them, listening to them. Not only listening to the CEO, but also listen to the team, because sometimes a CEO has a point of view and a team has another point of view. Then what I always do is like an assessment, an online assessment, and sometimes even and one-on-one assessment. I interview team members. So that I get to know where they are, where they want to be, what's the noise against, what is the noise in the team. And then one of the main things that I do with the intervention is giving them tools so that they can understand this, that we were talking, that I have a model of the world. This guy have a model of the world. If I like more red, I always deliver in red. If he likes green, he will deliver in green, and he loves to receive green. So I'm giving in red. Oh, now I realize why things doesn't work, right? So assessment, getting to know them, and raising their awareness, raising their level of conscience, so that they can see the problem from a different level of conscience.
Okay. And how do you deal with the CEO in the room? Or maybe it's not the CEO, but it's the person that hired you, and maybe the person knows more about you than the rest of the group. Or You see what I mean? Sometimes there's a person who is the know-it-all in the
Oh,
room.
that know-it-alls. Well, I had a couple of clients like that, one-on-one, and sometimes in teams, you see people very close, or they are blocking whatever you are doing. I never had like a critical situation. Actually, I had a let's call it a challenging situation in one training last year in Brazil, and it was a big learning, because again, all people, when they are close, it's they are coming from a point of fear, and they see something in you that scares them, you know. And the way of blocking fear is you can do it in two ways: either you take action, or you shut down. So those people that they shut down, the first thing that I do is, again, connect with them, making them see that I'm not there to teach them. And sometimes they are actually testing you. You know, they are testing you to see how strong you are, see if you can deal with it. And again, I remember a one-on-one client, a private client that I had. It was we had our first session was like a battle, you know. And I remember that I came to a point at the session that I said, listen, we can do it this two ways: the hard way or the easy way. The hard way, I love the hard way. So we can battle for a next month. I'm being paid, I can stay here, you will not learn anything from me, I will not learn anything from you. Or we can do it this easy way: I go out of the room, I get in again, and we reset from zero. And we did that, and it was a great client. We both learned, and it's a client that I still talk with. So sometimes it's fear, and sometimes they are testing you.
Okay. And is there such thing as a big group? What's the size of a group for someone to handle in a workshop or event scenario? I know you run events from 100 people to what, 2,000 people?
The biggest one that I gave was 3,500.
Okay. But in general, for someone to handle in a workshop scenario, how much big is a big group for someone to?
Well, there are things that you can do with a group of 10 people that you cannot do with a group of 100 people, that you cannot do with a group of, and there are things that you can do with a group of 100 that you cannot do with a group of 10 and a group of 1,000, and there are things that you can do with a group of 1,000.
Okay.
So I would say that you cannot have a solution that, okay, this is like I go to every crowd and this will work. You need first to do an assessment of the group and design your intervention according to the group. Okay, so I would say if you want to run a workshop for a company, like for example, I would say a more interactive workshop, I would say 100 people might be a limit. So if you go above that, you need to do something that is less interactive, more inspirational, more motivational. It doesn't mean that they will not think, it doesn't mean that they will not do exercises, but that the dynamics will have to be different.
Yeah.
But again, it's about the crowd, the dimension, the goal that you have or that the company has for that crowd, and you need to adapt it.
Okay. And I know, so apart from being a coach, you're also the CEO of your own company. And I wanted to ask you, do you think of growing a team of coaches to work with you, or do you plan to stay mainly solo?
No. Actually, we are in a phase right now of taking the company to the next level. So we have plans, and we are working on the strategy. Actually, Instagram was our first thing to work on and to focus on, and to create a good strategy. So, but we have strategy for the digital, meaning Instagram, podcast, YouTube channel, Facebook presence, our web, because our web sucks at this moment. It hasn't been our focus. And also by that and we have already 6 people that were trained and that they are master coaches in our methodology that will be supporting us as a coach, not only for external clients, but also when we deliver trainings that they can, coach, they can mentor the new coaches and all that. So yes, taking the company to the next level is what I'm focusing right now, and actually that was one of the reasons that I left the company Tony Robbins as a coach. I was a coach for Tony for 7 years, and I decided beginning of this year to leave because I wanted to focus on my own company. So yeah, I want to grow it, create a bigger team, and have more presence digitally and also at live events and coaching, trainings, and all that.
So I think for a lot of people that start on coaching, and I know that's definitely not your case because you're always oversubscribed, but a lot of people also see there's an opportunity to do coaching certification events for others, and I think there's a spur of new events happening that promise to teach people to be a coach, and your company runs a certification as well.
Yeah.
How do you see all these new events coming that they promise to form coaches? Is that good for the market? Is it snake oil, or is it a good thing?
Great question. Well, you know me, and I have a belief that everything is okay. And what do I mean with everything is okay? I think that in every market there are players, right? And there are A players, there are B players, and there are C, D, E, F, whatever players. Only by having a good player and a bad player, you will create a level in the market. Of course, there are schools that I don't identify myself with, that are trainers that I don't identify myself with. But again, this is my model of the world. I don't see, for example, in Brazil, there are, and we were talking about this the other day. Actually, one of the new coaches talked about that. That there are, I don't know, I don't have the number here again, so details is not my strength. But he was creating this analogy of the number of coaches that are created and the number of people that have success versus the number of people that have success and have a coach. And they were still far behind. And in Brazil, they cook coaches by the hour, right? So again, by having a product A school and a product, let's call it F, being the really bad schools, you will have difference in the market. People can evaluate. So for someone who looks for a school, and I always say this, I always recommend my school as number one in my country, of course, for example. But I always say, look at the other school, look at the life of the people, of the person that is delivering that training. Look at their footsteps. Look if he's walking his talk. Look at how many hours of coaching, how many years is in the market. Look at the strategy, look at the structure, look at what they will give you, look at what they are promising versus what they will give you. And I always say there are no bad coaches, we are not over a limit, not even closer. But again, there was always, again, Class A and Class F companies in every market, and they will exist. It's up to you to be more aware of what you want, because it's the market that will select and will elect a product versus other. So, and for people that are listening to this and they are thinking in becoming coaches or they are new coaches, it's always about, right now we are in a market that you have much more opportunities than I had 11 years ago. Social media, video, podcast, everything, you can explode. But don't expect to have the same success in 1 month that took 10 years of someone to get to. There is no such thing like overnight success. You need to work, you need to deliver, you need to commit in adding value to your clients, and only by doing that you will get your market share and you will get your name, your authority, and all that. But as a sum, yes, there are schools that there shouldn't be in the market, but again, that's part of the business, that's part of the rules of life.
It happens in every market.
It happens in every market. It's up to you to be aware, to make your search, to look at the people, to look at what they will deliver, look at their methodology, and choose.
And I know some people also do your coaching certification program as kind of a personal development
Yes.
Course. And is that a good thing? Is it the right mood to come into the coaching certification?
For me, absolutely. And that's why when we created the coaching certification from B Coach almost 10 years ago, it was 2009. We thought about an event that would add you the tools, meaning I want to become a coach. So I have tools, I have the best tools, but at the same time I have the best experience. It doesn't make sense for you to go there and you went through the coaching certification and you know what I'm telling about. Going there and giving you the tools. It's a 7-8 day program now, actually 8-day program. We could reduce it to 4 days. If you just use this tool, do it like this, you get this. But you need to experience, and we start that coaching training with a very intensive and deep journey inside you, right? Taking you to face your emotions, to understand your emotions, beliefs, and all that. Basically, everything that coaching works on, you first will experience that. And that's why it's so powerful. And most of the people say, hey, this event not only gave me the abilities, but changed my life, because they stopped for 8 days, 12, 14 hours a day. And the only thing that they were thinking is, how can I solve this? How can I become better? How can I get to the next level? So when they enter and when they leave the training, they're not the same person. Why? Because they know much more about their fears, how to deal with their fears, what makes them happy, and how to get there, basically.
Okay. So we're almost coming to an end, but I have here a point. For someone that is struggling right now, maybe to get some project off the ground, what would you say is the most important thing for them to do? Where should they start? Should they start by making it more tangible? Should they start by getting a coach? What's the best way to go about?
Well, there are many things that you can do, and as you know, we always discuss this on a coaching training. It's never about the how, right? Of course, when you start a company, you normally you have an idea, you have a dream, or you had this miraculous idea that no one else had. So I would say everything starts with an idea, with a product. What you should not know or what you should not do is fall in love with your product. And what do I mean with this? Because it's a paradox. Yes, you need to love your product, and yes, you need to know if the product will be loved by others. Because sometimes we love it so much, but the market doesn't love it or doesn't need it. So have a product that you love and that you expect the market to love. Then have a strong why. Have a strong reason, you need to have hunger about succeeding, about making it work. Sometimes you need to burn your bridges, right? Sometimes you need to burn your boats. Make it like, is it this or is it this?
So do you mean quit the job, start working full-time on that idea?
Again, there are many ways. I have worked with clients that they started their company while they were working, and they would do it in their free time, at night, over weekends, holidays, and all that. Like, for example, myself, I started coaching like this day. Yesterday I was working at my company. Next day I was not, So again, there are many ways. And I would say that the main thing is have a vision, have a clear goal, have a product that you love and that you know that will create transformation, that will add value to the market. Don't be, illusioned that I love this product so much that you don't see the other side. And make it important. Make it, even if you quit your job and it's like, man, I have money for 6 months, so I have to make it happening in 6 months, or you are still working because you need that safety. But create a deadline, create limits, create small goals that, okay, by this week I want to have this done. Create goals, have a clear strategy, measure where you are, compared to where you want to be. And I would say that the most important thing is to have your why. why is it important for me to build up this company? Why is it important for me to build up this project, this product? Have a powerful why, because in the bad days, and you will have lots of bad days, in the bad days, it's the importance that will make that difference.
Okay. There's this quote by Jim Rohn where he says, some people don't do well simply because they don't feel well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree? Well,
absolutely. I heard Jim saying that. Actually, he used to say that a lot in his talks. And what he means with feel is about emotions, right? So emotions is what drives us, right? So emotion creates action, and action creates emotion, and emotion creates motivation. Motivation creates emotion. Emotion creates action. Action creates motivation. Motivation. So everything is interconnected. But I would say if you go to the root, it's the emotions. So if you control your emotions, if you feel, and again, you don't, it's impossible to be 100% of your time motivated. It's impossible to be 100% of your time happy. It's impossible to be passionate every time. But you need to understand that every emotion has a meaning, every emotion has a signal, and every emotion is for you to take a specific type of action. So if you control your emotions, and when I say control, it's not control them in a way that, because you cannot control your emotion actually. You can use your emotions. So you need to know your emotions. You need to specifically know what your emotions mean to you. Like for example, frustration, anger, disappointment, failure, guilt, fear. You know, we all see this as bad emotions. People say, I don't want to feel fear. Normally, and you know this when I work with a client, if the goal doesn't scare him, it's not a good goal because it will not challenge him, it will not make him grow. But so you need to understand, fear is about getting me ready. It's about preparation. So have emotional intelligence. Use your emotions. Build up an emotional state, and there are tools for this. Build up daily an emotional state. Know where you are. Know where you want to be. Take care of your body, take care of your spirit, your soul, and by that you will feel good. And by feeling good, you change. Again, if you wake up in a very good mood, even if it's raining outside, you go outside and you dance in rain. Of course, this is a metaphor. But if you wake up in a very bad mood, and if you look at rain, man, you want to kill someone, right? So it's not about rain, it's about your emotional conditioning. It's about your emotional state.
Okay, but I know Tony Robbins on his events. He does he has a lot of content on health and energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something you take very seriously.
Yes.
As well, with exercise, with dieting, all sorts of things. That you have a top tip for people to improve on that level.
Yes, people need to change their beliefs about food. Actually, I was having lunch at a sushi place early this afternoon, and there was a table of business guys there, and they were celebrating a new business, as I could hear because they were talking very loud. And one of them was talking, for example, about sugar, and he was saying, "Hey man, I read this thing about sugar, and sugar is 6 times more addictive than cocaine." And he was saying, "Man, but everything has sugar now. Even meat, even bread, everything comes with sugar." Of course, because the companies that produce those products, they know that, and they put sugar so that they can have you addicted to the product. So you need to look at food not as something that will give you pleasure. And don't get me wrong, I love eating. I love having a good wine. I love having a good meal. I love going to a great restaurant. I love the experience. And I do it once. I don't do it every day. So, and my main shift was when I started to look at food as energy. So it's like charging your battery. Will food give me energy, or will food take me energy? Because if I eat clean, and I was a vegetarian for 7 years. So it's about you to choose if you eat meat or if you don't eat meat. It's you can have an healthy diet with meat, and you can have an healthy diet without meat. But it's really identifying your meals as energy. So, for example, I have a good piece of protein with some with some greens, with some vegetables and all that, and with some carbs if you want to add it, but good carbs like sweet potato, brown rice, whatever, that will give you energy. If you have 3 glasses of wine, if you have a big meal with a lot of oil, with a lot of things, actually the process of the body that consumes more energy is digestion. So it will drain energy, it's not giving you energy. So you have to look at it, if I eat this will happen. If I eat that will happen. And you need, again, to be aware of your choices. So for me, the shift was, I wanted to produce more, I wanted to live more, I wanted to have more energy, so I started to look at food as either it will give me or it will take me energy.
Okay. Well, what's your, just some final questions before we end up. What's your favorite book of all times?
The Little Prince.
Okay, that's good. What's a podcast you recommend?
Well, I hear a couple of them. At this point, I'm listening to a guy that, again, I see integrity and congruency, Lewis Owes, but I also listen to Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins, of course.
Okay. What's a seminar / event you recommend for people in terms of personal development?
I would recommend 2. Unleash the Power Within from Tony Robbins, which is like an igniter, is like the entry point. But if you really want to go deep already from the beginning, Date with Destiny. It's a 6-day event, and it's really a date with your destiny. So it's 6 days of an immersion journey into your life, and you will be able to get to know you a lot better and get out there with a plan for your destiny. So Date with Destiny.
Okay. And where can people find you online?
Instagram, Facebook.
What's your Instagram?
So it's my name, Jorge Coutinho 13, so JORGE COUTINHO 13. And Facebook, Twitter, and on the new web pages that we'll be launching over the next couple of months, which is bcoach.pt, and again, my name, GORGECOUTINHO.com.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.